Hello, friends. It's Brennan, and I'm going to be talking with my beautiful, powerful friend, Katherine, who is so intuitively gifted. And she's going to be chatting with you all about how she taps into her intuitive gifts and also about how you have more intuitive gifts than you even have begun to uncover. So let's hear what she has to say. We kind of touched on frequency, we touched on energy, and I kind of want to shift gears a little bit. But before I do so, if I'm a person watching out there and it's like the number one thing that I hear, actually two things that I hear quite a lot with this kind of work is, I don't have time.
Okay.
Or, yeah, what are you going to do when the last thing I need to figure out is energy work when I have to wake up in the morning, go to work, bills to pay, taking care of this person, taking care of that person. Or like even just your programming from just your life and your parents won't even allow your brain to just even, like these concepts are so foreign and almost too good to be true at times where like your brain can't even for a second, for a millisecond, begin to think of any of this as true. What is your response to that, and how do you encourage people to move through those patterns in that programming?
Well, first off, these concepts are so hard to wrap your head around because some sound very simple, but then execution is next to impossible when you add on day to day. And then some sound very heady where it's like, I might never understand this or really embody this. So none of these beliefs, concepts, archetypes are simple. They are very large and something, like I said earlier, that it's about constantly practicing within and showing up even when the belief might not be there, but just walking down that path. And as for fitting it into life, I make what I call my micro practices, my macro practices. So micro practices are things that I can drop into. It might be a minute, it might be 30 seconds, it might be 5 minutes, really just something that is so deeply palatable that I can touch every single day. And it might be like a couple different practices that I bring in and I fit in with the energy, but it's something that I know will always appear in my day to day. And then I have my macro practices, which are like, I cleared my evening, I'm ready to deep dive, this is what I want to do, and it's all going to be about me. But I don't hold myself to doing those at any sort of schedule. Like I touch base with them, especially as I feel like I need them. But I'm not like, if I don't do 2 hours of meditation every single day, I can't do this work. That never made any sense to me.
I love that note. Because we feel that pressure.
100%. And I used to, like, especially when I started this journey, I would be like, okay, I'm going to meditate, do yoga, journal, breath work. And then I'd be like, I can't do 5 hours of ritual before I start my day.
It's not sustainable sometimes. Yeah.
And then if I didn't do it, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm of course, like, I don't deserve to be healed because, like, I can't stay consistent. And, like, I see other people being consistent. And frankly, this work is a tool to support us.
Yeah.
When you mention that reframe of like, what if everything works out? Like, what if every tool that we have is meant to support us in the best possible way?
Yes.
And so making practices that you can extend and shorten and fit into your life is something that's super, super important, especially in work like this, where it's going to be very comprehensive and like moving and working with your energy. And then for I have other things, we are so much more fulfilled and so much better to those around us when we are pouring from a full cup.
Yes.
Pouring from an empty cup, although we might feel, it's the concept of the martyr. We might feel like this is what I have to do. This is how I have to be for my parents, my siblings, my spouse, my children. But in truth, us at our fullness, giving to others, we give more, we have more patience, we connect more because we're giving all of that to ourselves. So we don't feel like we have to take something from us to keep another person alive. It's like, I'm going to light myself up and it's going to light up everyone else in this room.
Ooh, yes.
So it's just shifting that belief and knowing that like you can take the 5 minutes. To do like a little recharge, quick fill up.
Just 5.
Just 5 minutes. Sometimes I literally do it for like 1 minute of breath work.
Yeah.
30 seconds of
and touching on that too, full disclosure, actually my practice lately, but I also have been meditating probably quite consistently for about 4 years. Mm-hmm. But now, this year, in the listening to what I need, I feel like I'm so embodied in the practice that I think, to your point, and something I've heard recently, it's like we already have the spiritual technology built in.
Yeah.
So sometimes it does get lost in the shuffle of like, it needs to be this breath work, it needs to be this meditation. But it's like all of it's already here. So if you just even wake up and just say, like for me right now, something that's been feeling really good is I wake up and I just like kind of cover myself in like white light, or I just like touch the ground and I just say a quick thank you, or just to guide me today. That's been enough, because it's kind of like these tools and crystals are all amazing helpers, but it's like we are the divination tool. We are the tool. We are the tool. Like we have all the technology here. So for those that are kind of like within the practice, know that it's already here.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back. I have a friend who does sound healing. And she has her instruments, like her drums and stuff. But she kind of said something that was so profound that lately she's been using the body as a percussion. So it's like, even in that statement, this is going to sound a little cheesy, but it's like, you are enough. Like, in all of them, you are the crystal, you are the drum, you are the meditation. Like, just your existence is, and you told me this, that life is the ceremony.
It is.
Like, you are the ceremony. You are everything. So it's like, don't get too lost in the shuffle of like, you need to do all these, again, external things to get, because that is another form of what's the word I'm looking for? It's another form of outsourcing.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just say like, I'm a walking embodiment of something divine.
Yeah.
So at this point, I don't even need to meditate, because I am the meditation.
And you know what? Sometimes the most spiritual thing you could do is be like, you know what? I'm not going to meditate today.
No, yeah.
Like, I am like so lost in what's going on. There's so much. I just need a day where I'm going to give myself permission to not be in the work.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, compounding that can be like, okay.
Yeah, you can feel when the wheels
really
fall off.
separating and like we probably need to do what we're avoiding. But just even that, like, what if you viewed that as ceremony?
Right.
As like not doing anything spiritual, but like making a great meal, having the wine with your friends.
Yeah,
it's like
great
that
conversation.
That is the ceremony. That's the connection piece.
Yeah. That's embodiment. Like true embodiment.
I had this beautiful moment, and I was reflecting on this last night, but in plant medicine facilitation, obviously, like, that is ceremony, hardcore, like, you are in it. And you are in with the medicine, locked in, doing all these things, and I used to feel, coming out of it, like, okay, now I need to go and, like, meditate and, like, do yoga and, like, all the things, because, like, I just did this massive ceremony and I held space for others, so I better be a ceremonialist. Like, I better be this person. And then someone who actually was helping me become a better facilitator, I was talking to him and I was like, what do you do after ceremony? And he's like, I watch Cougar Town. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because this, like, shattered my belief. And he was like, the most nourishing thing for me is to allow my body to shut off.
Wow.
And to laugh and to feel very human and to lay in bed and watch a show that I love.
Yeah.
And it just gave me, like, such tremendous permission. And, like, I do love watching a show after, you know, doing a day of, you know, meditation or yoga or kundalini or medicine, where even being deeply human is now ceremony to me. It's just about really learning to use it as a tool of nourishment.
Being human is the ceremony, the spectrum. We are here to feel. We are here to, and all you have to do is just bring your presence to it. Honestly, it's very simple, but sometimes we just get stuck in the fog and the static. And we forget how simple it really is. And I get it. Things show up. They're always going to show up.
Yeah.
But it's so true that sometimes we just it's very simple. You know, we overcomplicate. But I love that. And also just before we kind of go into maybe a practice or two, one of
Okay.
your what did you call it?
A micro practice.
Micro practice. Would you share a micro practice and maybe dive into one of your macro?
So I feel like Kundalini is like the best bridge because you can literally do it for 2 seconds or an hour and a half. So I feel like that's the perfect bridge of micro and macro.
Oh my goodness. So Katherine is going to share with us some of her micro practices that sort of recalibrate when you're feeling a little bit, as we were talking about the shadowy stuff or any of these feelings that are kind of weighing us down. She has her micro practices that she dives into, so she's going to share those.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do that. And just, we can just, I'm going to go into something else too really quick. And before we just shift gears into that, something I just want to touch on briefly is that you're so intuitive. And so lately, I think we all have intuition. We do.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us are a little bit more tapped in than others. We have a connection because I came over one day and it turns out she was feeling a lot of grandmother energy in the room. And it turns out it's my grandma Dora, who I've not met. She passed away, I think, the year I was born or maybe the year before. And Katherine has a grandma. Her name is also Dora. So it was so wild. I walked in and she was just like, I feel this grandmother energy. And I was like, my grandma Dora. And she's like, my grandmother's name is Dora. So we definitely have this connection and amongst a lot of other things.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd love to hear about your ideas around your intuitiveness and how do you get your intuitive hits?
Yeah.
How is it showing up? If you don't mind sharing.
Oh, no, I love talking about this. Because, we've talked so much about building the self-trust muscle.
Yeah.
And intuition is like a taskmaster where, like, if you want to develop it, you need to start trusting yourself and start talking to what you think might be a hit as if it's real.
Mm-hmm.
And leaning in, and that's how you kind of hear and learn your intuitive voice. So for me particularly, my primary clair, because I believe there are like 5 or 6 clairs.
So there's clairaudience, clairsentience, clairvoyance, claircognizant.
Yeah, and I want to say there's another one.
And Claire, did we say audience?
There's I don't know the name, but there is
Something
like you smell.
Yeah.
Because weirdly enough, like I smell my grandparents quite a bit.
Wow.
Where like they'll be like the scent of their house, or like my dad's father who passed, he always kind of smelled like mothballs. And there have been times in my life where I've just been like walking somewhere and like that scent was overwhelming.
You just get like a whiff of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that is a very big clair tied with mediumship, but my primary clair has always been clairsentience.
So feeling.
Yes. Right? So I feel it in my body. And growing up with this clair, I had no idea that I was tapping into something other than myself. Because when you get anxiety in your stomach, like, it's your anxiety. You don't think like, oh, I think it's the person next to me leaking an energy that I'm picking up on. And then sometimes I would like be with someone and I would feel so anxious, so uncomfortable. And then I would leave the room and I would feel fine. And it never made any sense to me. I was kind of just like, oh, it happens. Like, I'm a little moody. I sometimes get overwhelmed with like sensations. And then I finally started tuning into what I was feeling. So I remember I was sitting in a car with a friend of mine and her brother called her and he was on speakerphone. And like my heart chakra felt like plugged. And I was like, what is this? Is this me? And when I asked, is this me? It was a clear no. But I had never asked the energies in my body before, hey, are you me?
Wow.
And I turned to my friend and I was like, this is going to sound really weird, but did your brother go through a breakup? She was like, yeah, he just broke up with someone. And that moment was like the turning point for me where I was like, oh, like you can have conversations. So what I do is I've worked a lot on closing my energy. And then I'll say a little opening prayer now and allow myself to really tune into people that I interact with. And if I feel a hit, or if I'm like thinking about someone and I feel something in my body, I'll ask like, okay, are you mine? Are you theirs? What are you? And then claircognizance kind of stacks on top of that, where I'll get things to say, guides in the space, anything that they might need to know or feel or hear. And then also sometimes like, what is the energy rooted in? How do we want to move it? Like, what is going on in their field that this came through? So those are my two primary clairs that I work with. And then obviously being an energy practitioner and a Reiki master, I've now learned how to tune in even further, like using my hands as a way to scan. But for people who are really feeling called, it's starting with the somatic practices. So the Kundalini practice that we'll go into after this is a great way to just clear your own field. So when you start by clearing your field, it's a very good way to kind of give yourself that confidence of like, okay, I've neutralized the energies going on with me. And then sealing yourself, where it's like, okay, I'm going to ground and connect. And I like to envision like a big black obsidian egg surrounding me, where it's like, I'm going to allow myself to permeate out and feel without allowing someone in to attach or, get in my field, which anything that comes to us, we can clear. Yes. Like nothing is spooky, sticky energy. Just it's about being conscious of the protection and the clearing. But then starting to ask those questions, starting to, if you want to develop clairaudience, like listen to what's around you.
That's
see what,
definitely musicians.
Yes.
For me, I definitely hear things through sound because I'm a singer. So if you're out there and you're a singer, music is huge. Yes. Going to a store and you hear certain songs, it's a big one.
100%. And like trusting, if a line in a song sticks out to you, like trust that, ask questions, like start to build that relationship. And like these gifts are waiting to unfold for us. Like when we start to feel safe in that, like, okay, like what is this feeling? Why does my energy shift like whenever I'm around this person? Like, why do I keep seeing this one particular thing over and over again? Or even like when we connected about our grandmas, where it was just this like grandma, and like I had this and it's funny because I didn't even think about that, and like as we were sitting down, I had this drive to get my grandma's shawl.
Yeah.
And I was like, should we put it in the space? Yeah. But it happened just now before we started filming. I was like,
oh, just now?
Yeah. But like, I just kind of had it pass. But yeah, before we connected for the first time, there was this drive of like, bring the shawl into the space, like bring something of your grandma's. And it was just so overwhelming. And even just tuning into like, okay, why am I feeling so deeply drawn to one particular type of energy? And building that relationship. Yeah. And then when you're ready and you feel comfortable and like with someone safe, like starting to ask the questions. Because sometimes, we might not fully understand what's coming through. It might take a while to discern. It might be an energy from somewhere else. So I always say start with someone safe, because you don't want to open up to someone who's just not in the wavelength and they're just like, no.
We do not consent to any lower frequency.
Exactly.
That's why really, if you are interested in this, really also, I think, declaring it. Like,
yes.
It's always in the highest good and highest truth. I don't want to get too out there, but I love everything you're saying, and I just know you're so supremely gifted in that. And if you ever have a chance to work with Katherine, which you should after watching this, run and book her ASAP to be your transformational life coach. But you just are so good at just the discernment, and you're so tapped in. And I also feel like if sometimes people get a little spooked out by this stuff, and I get it. Like I honor that, because I also think in television and movies we see things and it's like demonic and this and that. And I understand you can have your own imprints on things, but I just challenge you to you can't tell me when you walk into a room and mom and dad are fighting and then they're not talking anymore and you walk in and you feel that tension in your chest.
Mm-hmm.
Or you walk into a stadium, a football stadium, and they're booing for the opposing team. You feel that energy. Or when they're cheering, you feel that energy. So if you're watching this and you kind of are like, you feel it all the time, whether you are understanding it or not. When a loved one is crying and you walk in, you feel that energy. So all of these are connected to our intuition and how we feel things. So you do have it as well.
Yeah.
This isn't stuff, I mean, I'm so fascinated by Katherine, like she is impeccable, but you have it too. We all have it to a degree. Whether you want to call it intuition, your gut instinct, I don't know what else people call it, like just have a feeling, or you had a dream that was like, just be a little more curious, because I do believe that these things are working for our benefit, but sometimes we're so close-minded and we think that this stuff is just too woo-woo and too out there that we don't even allow what's trying to reveal itself to be known, and it could be for your greatest benefit. So when you're feeling stuck, listen to these things. We have a compass, we have a North Star, and it's not all your fault, again, because it's how we've been conditioned and in society to kind of push these gifts away, but they are wonderful compasses that really help us and benefit us. And I honor you if you're not at a place to receive it, but know that it's helped us gravely, and it continues to really bring us safety and security and knowingness, and even it kind of comes back to self-love of when everything seems to be against you. If you have that connection to self and to intuition, you are not shifted or swayed by anyone or anything. So I think it's really powerful, and
it's so powerful.
Thank you for sharing that, because I know it's also so intimate, and this work is so sacred and beautiful, and also just honoring it. And I also just want to take time to just honor Indigenous people who use these practices, who are, there's Indigenous erasure and Aboriginal people and ancient people that have used these practices, and now it's become super mainstream, and I just want to always honor them and hold that deeply in our heart too, because as this all becomes mainstream, which is awesome, I love that it's becoming the focal point of how we're moving forward. There are a lot of these practices that people were actually killed and prosecuted for, so I always just want to just honor them and honor their work and their teachings too. Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
I just love you so much, and I just adore you, and thank you for coming to the Lark's Nest and sharing your gifts. And again, Katherine's been such a remarkable part of my journey and has continued to help me unlock some of my gifts, and maybe I wouldn't even be here doing the Lark's Nest if it wasn't for you. And I just honor you and your work and how you show up. And again, reach out to Katherine. I will have her Instagram. Do you even want to just say some of how people can find you?
I think Instagram is the easiest way. It's just my name, Katherinepetrullo. And you can link it.
Yeah.
I love just connecting and exploring this world with people. So reach out with questions, comments, anything.
And support. I mean, I don't think even just like a like or a comment, I mean, we don't need the external validation, but no, but it's just nice to know if you're seeking a tribe and you just want to feel seen and this resonates, you're not alone.
Yeah.
We support you. We honor you. Thank you for showing up. And I'll see you next time at the Lark's Nest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mwah.